Hello, Icy Night here with Chapter 25, Wiped Out. Luna stood aboard the flight deck of the moon cutter, taking in the morning breeze with a peaceful smile as she lowered the moon. She's never really been a morning pony, having spent years staying up all night and sleeping all day, but her new schedule had her day switched around. And she's come to appreciate her sister's son. You could see why ponies took such joy in seeing it. It was like a light pushing away the darkness, and though she still loved her moon and the stars in the night sky, she could at least appreciate the sight of the dawn of a new day. The moon cutter veered to the right, coming alongside her sister ship, the Solar Ray. The crew of the Ray saluted as the team of Pegasus pulled a bridge across for those that could not fly. Walking across the bridge was the Ray's captain, Firefly. "Permission to come aboard?" Firefly jokingly asked as she stepped onto the deck. They exchanged salutes, with Luna smiling warmly at the pink and blue Pegasus. Though one of her newest officers, Firefly, proved her worth during the Battle of Rainbow Factory and was given command of the Solar Ray as reward for her service. "Permission granted. How was your mission to Nippon? Everything go alright with the Emperor?" Firefly lowered her hoof, a big smile on her lips as she trotted with Luna towards the command deck. "Everything went fine, Princess. We were greeted very warmly. Kira Perfecta, especially. Her love of swords really proved to be the great icebreaker for us." "And where is Kira Perfecta now?" "I'm certain she's fulfilled her duty as bodyguard for Ambassador Pure Lingage beyond expectations. I have some questions I want to ask her." "Is something wrong, Firefly?" The pink mare was standing there, several feet away, seemingly rooted in place as she nervously rubbed the back of her head. "Is something the matter?" The pink Pegasus chuckled nervously. "Well, you see, Emperor Shinjuku didn't take a liking to Ambassador Pure Lineage. In fact, if I'm honest, I would say negotiations were about to go up in flames had Kira not taken over." Luna turned, giving Firefly her full attention as she wrapped her mind around what she was just told. "So, if I'm understanding you correctly, Pure Lineage is here." Firefly nods. "Then Kira is in Nippon, negotiating a trade and treaty deal? Kira, who has no experience in such matters, or is aware of what Celestis and I hope to gain through an alliance with the Nippon Ponies? Do I understand you correctly, Firefly?" Firefly nodded. "Yes, ma'am, that is the situation. At least part of it." She hoof-faced. "And what else is there, Firefly?" "Well, the Emperor's son, Lord Shinto, maybe sort of have a small, if not huge, romantic feelings for Kira, and all negotiations have come to a standstill, as the final clause of the treaty is that the alliance will only be ratified if Kira marries Shinto. Of course, the actually treaty doesn't say that. It says that blood bond between our nations will ensure Nippon loyalty for generations. Then Pure Lineage made a fuss saying only royals and nobles apply for such a thing, and it was ridiculous that In his own words, a common pony such as Kira is not suited for the honor, and after that to avoid a total war. Kira had me bring pure lineage aboard the Solar Ray and bring him back home, leaving her and a small number of ponies behind to deal with the situation there. Firefly paused to take a breath. And that's what's actually happening. Currently, Kira is probably trying to stall for time so we could get into contact with you. I see. A wise course of actions given the circumstances. Very well, I'll send a letter to Emperor Shinuto saying it is unreasonable for him to force one of my subjects and one of my best soldiers into marriage. Actually, Princess, Firefly interrupted, Kira is okay with it, and she actually just wants you to grant her noble status, so she can marry Lord Shinto, without any pony causing a fuss over her heritage and stuff like that. Luna did a double take. Kira also has feelings for the Emperor's son? Well, more of a sense of duty, really. Here are her words on the matter if you wish to read it. Firefly presented a letter addressed to her from Kira. With an uncertain feeling turning in her gut, Luna accepted it and opened the letter. The letter reads, Dear Princess Luna, I write this letter to you requesting you grant me the status of nobility, not for my personal gain, of course, but for yours. You have done so much for my kin and me. I feel this is the only way I can even begin to repay the debt I feel to you. I can assume Firefly has told you of my situation, so I will skip over the details. Rest assured, the young Lord Shito of Nepal is a good stallion, and while I may not share quite his passion for him as he does me, he is handsome enough. To be honest, marrying is not something I've ever planned for in my life, mainly because of my appearance. Even among my own, I'm different, but the ponies of Nippon don't seem to mind that, especially Lord Shinto, as even only knowing each other for a few days, he seemed rather taken with me. He speaks much flattery towards me that I cannot help but blush at, mainly because he has no tongue for poetry, or I the ear for it, but the gesture is heartfelt. Basically what I'm saying, don't worry about my personal feelings on this matter. Think of the ponies of Equestria and what is best for them. I assure you, dear princess, my friend, I'll be quite happy here. Respectfully, Kira Perfecta. Luna folded the note carefully, her mind mute as she tried to wrap her head around what Kira was telling her to do. She was giving her full permission to be used as a political pawn, a concept that Luna despises. I will need time to think on this. Tell Sixes to alert me when we reach Canterlot. I assume you have another mission right away? Firefly nodded. Yeah. We need to go drop Emerald Cutter off at the border to check on a group out that way that hasn't reported back yet. I'll be leaving as soon as we restock. I'll pass on the message to Sixes. Thank you, Firefly, Luna said, walking away with the letter clenched tightly in her magic. The walk to her cabin was a long and silent one. She simply nodded to the ponies that greeted her, a gesture they'd come to know as code for leave her alone. Inside, Luna placed the note on the nightstand beside her bed. and lay down, her mind abuzz. How can Kira ask me to do that to her? She is my friend, not a pawn to be used for political gain. Luna muttered into her pillow. She had no idea what to do. Well, she knew what would be the right thing to do as a princess of Equestria, but she didn't want to do it. Luna rolled onto her back, staring at the ceiling. I wonder what Celestia would do. Would she do what's best for Equestria, or for Kira? That was the other thing. What was the best thing for Kira? By her words, she didn't seem to care either way. Like she was deciding what to have for lunch. A very Kira thing, she thought with a smile. I'll ask for Celestia's wisdom on the matter, and if I don't like what she has to say, I will fly to Nippon and talk to Kira myself. She smiled, happy with her reasoning. Yawning loudly, Luna decided to catch a bit more sleep before they reached Canterlot. She rather liked the warmth of the sun on her coat while she slept. It was like having Celestia beside her. Hours later, there was a knock on her door. Gradually, Luna rolled out from her blankets and gave the pony at the door permission to enter. The door opened, revealing Sixes carrying a tray of food. Hungry? He asked, setting the tray on the bed. Luna nodded, levitating an apple off the tray. She bit into the fruit. The cabin was silent, save for her chewing, which sounded kind of funny as her lips smacked together. We're about 10 minutes out from Canterlot. We'll be docking on the south side of the castle. I've sent messenger ahead to inform Celestia. Is there anything urgent? We'll be informed right away. Also, Fury, Applejack, and Overheat are still on the twilight morning, making their way back from the southern Badlands. Seems the changeling hive there was more trouble than we thought they would be. Changelings, one of the many creatures without an official nation of their own. They roamed the lands looking for their next food source. They were popping up more frequently since Meridor fell into civil war with the fall of Sombra. Luna couldn't help but sigh as she thinks of Sombra's fallen kingdom. In a way, it was their fault. War had broken out, and they were the ones to put the Unicorn King down. But on the other hoof, it was bound to happen someday either way. Meridor was a nation made up of several different smaller nations that Sombra had forced under his rule. He kept every pony in line. But as there were no less than 3 different sides of the conflict, it was clear he never truly got the tribes there to get along. The 3 factions were the pro-Sombra supporters, ponies that wanted to continue his legacy and keep the whole nation for one of Sombra's many offsprings to rule. Next was the anti-Sombra movement that wanted to keep the nation together but start a new royal bloodline. But then there were the independents, ponies that wanted to regain their own countries back. The Castle Siren Nation was the leader of this group. Overall, Meridor was a mess and has been the issue in the courts for many weeks. There was also yet another thing that pitted her and Celestia against each other. Celestia wanted to send aid to the ponies caught in the crossfire, while she argued to let the ponies of Meridor sort things out for themselves and then send aid depending on who took power. Luna was all for helping ponies in need, but to send support now would only lengthen the war. After all, wars could only go on as long as ponies had the resources to fight. "Hey, quit zooming out and eat," Sixes chastised, shoving another apple in her face. This was covered in caramel, her favorite. Happily, she took the apple and munched on it loudly. "We'll be docking soon. Make sure you clean your muzzle." She huffed at Six's advice as Dragon Pony left the room. Quickly, Luna finished the rest of the meal and cleaned up, and she cleaned the remains of her breakfast from her muzzle and hoped everything would go smoothly in the courts. The new Council of Nobles was as critical as her actions as the last, though that was due to the incident of when Sixes burned down Yellowblood's home, so she could understand them at least a little bit. That didn't mean she liked them in the slightest, especially their pet project, the EUP. Trotting out onto the deck, Luna took in the sight of Canterlot. The gleaming white city shined in the sunlight, giving a bright and majestic look. She continued to admire the view as they descended towards the airship docks. Once the ship was docked, she was flanked by Sixes and Nightingale, and together they proceeded to disembark, till 3 ponies blocked their path, an Earth, Pegasus, and a Unicorn, all clad in gold armor. Luna's eyes narrowed at the sight of it. Gold was Celestia's color, yet these 3 lacked the sun seal. "We'll take it from here. You 2 can remain on the ship," the Unicorn of the group gruffly said. There was something in his tone that Luna didn't like, and neither did Sixes or Nightingale, as the 2 gritted their teeth at the 3. "I think not. Now remove yourselves from my path, or you will be dealt with accordingly," Luna said, trotting forward. The ponies did not move. The Unicorn spoke again. "Allow us to escort you, Princess Luna. As members of the EUP, we have no authority to do anything," Luna countered, her voice rising as she marched forward, the ponies losing ground as they backed away. "To my current knowledge, your group has not received royal approval to operate on castle grounds. Act with authority given by Celestia or myself, nor are you allowed in any instance to demand that I abandon my trusted guards for your lousy batch of imposters, and rest assured, if any of this had been changed, I would have received word as such. Now get out of my sight before I have you sent off to the dungeons for impersonating military personnel." The 3 ponies were quivering in their boots as they screamed out a terrified, "Yes, Your Majesty!" and scattered to the winds. "Come, let us not delay any further." Angrily, Luna marched into the castle, her good mood all but destroyed, made only worse by the stares and whispers of the castle staff. She closed her eyes and folded her ears to ignore them. They didn't understand. They couldn't understand and never would. Celestia sat on her throne, feeling exhausted, and it was barely mid-morning. She had just finished talking with the new Council of Nobles, a group that sprung up before they had even returned from the battlefield of Rainbow Factory, but were necessary nonetheless, as this group at least was proving to be more cooperative and helpful than the last council. It probably helped that some of them, such as Sir Fancy Dress and Lady Lacey Lingerie, were actually business ponies that had earned their wealth rather than inherited it. The common ponies loved them, as the two have gone to great lengths to aid their fellow ponies at any opportunity. That being said, they were the main funders behind the EUP, a group of ponies wanting to pledge themselves to her. Their justifications for making such a group was of course the Yellow Blood incident, when Sixes burned down the former noble's home and his family inside. As she had warned Luna such things would come back to haunt them, Celestia just didn't think it would happen so quickly. Nonetheless, she has rejected the EUP's offer to be her personal army. She could not imagine the rift that would form between her and Luna if she were to take up their offer, a rift that was already widening once again. Luna didn't think she knew that the Night Patroller's option of her was shifting, but of course she knew. She was a warrior herself once. She knew how warriors thought. Unfortunately, there was nothing she could do to change it besides fighting in a war again, and she wasn't eager to do that again. And while she appreciated Luna's effects to show she was still powerful through their sparring, it only confirmed her own theory. It wasn't that Celestia didn't want to get stronger. It was that she couldn't. She had reached her peak, no matter how hard she tried, no matter how much she lifted, meditated, or studied. Celestia could not get any stronger mentally, physically, or magically. Meanwhile, Luna's power continued to grow, and without her noticing. Celestia would find it funny, if not for how powerful her sister could truly become. Someday the Princess of the Night would eclipse the sun, and Celestia wasn't sure how to feel about that. She was the older of the two, and for the last several hundred years, she has enjoyed being the stronger of the two. Not in a mocking way. It was just the way older siblings were. They were for pushing their younger siblings to be better, yet always remaining ahead of the curve. Which is probably the reason she hadn't told Luna the truth. Pride. She was too proud to admit her little sister was growing up and surpassing her. It was a hard thing for any sibling to admit. But what could be the harm in waiting just a little longer? "Why do you still deny our offer, Princess Celestia?" a voice asked from below. Catching Celestia off guard, she had been under the impress the room had been cleared of all guests, and yet there stood Lady Lacy at the base of her throne, looking rather distraught. "You know the danger your sister's army of monsters possess, and now she's trying to recruit the Bat Ponies again? Why do you insist on not doing the same? We're willing and able to stand by your side, so let us." Celestia groaned as she rubbed her temple. She did not want to deal with this right now. "Lady Lacy, the morning court is over and I am tired. Please leave." Lady Lacy, taken aback by Celestia's frustrated tone. The white-pink unicorn pranced in place uneasily as she fought the urge to obey her princess' command. Celestia's eyes narrowed and bored down at her. The prince's tired frown turned to frustration and perhaps irritation. "Lacy, leave or be forced to. I will hear your concerns later at the next council meeting, but I have other matters to attend to." Not wanting to press her luck, Lacy bowed and took her leave. Her head hung low. Why would the princess not hear her out? Did she truly trust those monsters so much more than them? The guard opened the door to let her out of the courtroom and straight into Princess Luna's path. Lacy's entire body froze and her fur stood on end as her face was buried into the princesses of the nights of blue fur. Everything seemed to stop as all the guards' eyes fell upon her. Any moment now, she would probably be at the bottom of the pony dog pile. "Are you okay?" Princess Luna asked her as the princess held at a leg's length away. Lacey stood there, dumbfounded. Despite being on the council for almost an entire year, this would be her first face-to-face encounter with Princess Luna. They've never seen each other at meetings for such, but they never exchanged words, as Luna tended to skip the majority of meetings, and the ones she did show up for, she simply observed and never really spoke up. Yes, I'm fine, just a bit tired. You know how it is with these court meetings and all," Lacey laughed off, still expecting that body slam at any moment. "I'm just surprised to see you, Princess Luna. I thought I would be gone for at least 2 more days, if not more." Luna nodded, offering a warm, reassuring smile as she pulled Lacey to her side and walked a little ways down the hall to a nearby bench. "Indeed, I was. But we managed to wrap the trade deal with the Griffins faster than expected and decided to come straight here to tell Celestia all the details in person. I assume today's courts was very extensive. What were you talking about that has tired you out so, Lady Lacey?" "Oh, nothing to, You were talking about me, weren't you?" Luna said for her. Lacey bit her lip, uncertain what to say to the Princess of the Night. "It's okay, you know. I understand. Ponies are still afraid of me and those I keep company with. But I assure you, if you would just get to know us, you'll see we are not the monsters you think we are. We are the ones that keep the real monsters away." I'll think about it," Lacey said shakingly, stepping off the bench. She trotted down the hall and stopped to look at Luna and her guards, Sixes and Nightingale. All 3 were smiling at her, and for a moment they seemed as kind and as normal as any other pony. But the tip of Six's fang peeked out beneath his lip, reminding her of what he was and what he did. She knew of what the blood families did, but that shouldn't excuse Sixes for what he did either. He burned them alive, mares, stallions, even foals. He wiped out the entire Yellow Blood family that night. Who was to say they had any idea what was going on? But he killed them anyway because the blue pony beside him told him to do it. He didn't hesitate to fulfill her order, not even for a second. Lacey trotted along, more determined than ever to make Celestia see just how dangerous her sister and her night patrol were. "You were too kind to her," Sixes spoke up after Lacey turned the corner. "She's not going to stop with just a few words. You know that, right?" Luna nodded, a sad smile on her lips. "I know, but it was worth a try. Come, let us speak to Celestia." The guards opened the door to the throne room. Luna and her entourage trotted in like valiant heroes returning from an epic quest, which was true in a sense. Surely their exploits in the Griffin Kingdom would make a wonderful tale. "Dear sister, I have returned with good news," Luna cheerfully announced as she bounded up to her own throne seated next to Celestia's. "Just wait till I show you the wonders of Soda Pop." A smile crept on Celestia's face as she placed her documents aside, giving her full attention to her sister. It sounds exciting. I'm sure there must be quite a story behind you being back so early. Indeed, but before that I must show you something else. Luna fished a glass jar out of her saddle pack. Inside was a brightly colored little pony-like creature with antennas and puffy hair. This is a breezy. It's a sort of pet, I think. King Silverus gave it to me after the negotiations were done. Isn't it just the cutest little thing? Need he is, sister. But are you sure it's a he? It looks more feminine. Luna held up the jar with a puzzled expression. You may have a point there, but I'm sure you are eager to hear about the trade deals went. Rest assured, they went extremely well. I believe you, Celestia chuckled, amused by Celestia's abundant energy. Come. Let us get the paperwork going so we can begin trade right away and make all the border guards aware of the new agreements. Luna groaned. Here I was thinking I would get to relax after a long trip. Celestia rolled her eyes, knowing Luna was just playing. She floated the breezes between their two thrones and laid a stack of papers between them. Together they began reading and signing them with great speed and focus. So focused, in fact, that they didn't notice their little friend reading alongside them. By the way, sister, why is... Luna hesitated with words, not quite comfortable for calling Crusader her nephew. Not because she didn't see him as family. It was just difficult. Crusader at the border. Oh, something about a monster attacking villages along the border. I'm certain he can handle it. But I asked Emerald Cutter to go check on his progress. Nonetheless, I'm sure things are going well. The entire village was utterly destroyed. There was nothing left standing but the former smoldering remains of ponies' homes. The ponies themselves were thrown apart, torn limb from limb. It was a sickening sight, one almost as bad as the battle for the Crystal Empire and Rainbow Factory. The only difference was the body count. Of course, there was one more thing about this disturbing that unnerved Emerald, and it was the dead night patrollers thrown around. Carefully, she removed the helmet of the patroller laying beside her. She cringed. The pony's head was half carved in like something had stepped on it. Placing the helmet next to its owner, Emerald trotted to the edge of the village where the forest began. There was a trail of hoof prints in a single file line, the standard night patroller formation. Following the trail, Emerald found more mutilated bodies. One was cut into 3 pieces. Whatever had done this, it was big and it had claws. She paused to inspect the sliced up pony. He was cut clean through, 1 slash. Emerald filed through her list of monsters, trying to match up the wound to something she hunted before. She came up with nothing. There was nothing she could think of that could do this. At least nothing she's hunted. So far, though, she has not even seen any sign of Crusader, which was good. She feared how his death would affect the Princess Celestia and Sixes as well. She knew Sixes would probably have regrets about his relationship with his son. She wondered if they should have an intervention or force bonding father-son bonding meeting or something. Things were getting awkward around the castle. Back on task, there are 5 ponies in Crusader squad, plus Crusader equaling 6. She has found 4 dead ponies. So far, the only 2 presumed survivors are Crusader and Bright Rain, the bat pony that joined not so long ago. Carefully, Emerald advanced deeper into the forest. The sun was lowering, giving way to the night. The fading light deepened the shadows of the downed trees. The trees were marked with claw marks. Some of the tree trunks were cut cleanly in half, the same way the pony was. This was clearly a battlefield. Some of the trees bore scorch marks, possibly from Crusader. No body so far, which was good. However, there was a savage leg in the center of the clearing. The leg definitely belonged to a pony, and since the color wasn't white, it probably belonged to Bright Rain. Hesitantly, Emerald Cutter touched the leg. It was still warm, but only barely. She wasn't far behind. Did she risk calling out for them? There was a trail of blood reaching deep into the forest, and the day was fading fast. Unfortunately, Emerald wasn't much of a night tracker. That job was usually Kira's. Charging her horn, she fired a magical flare into the air. A bright green explosion filled the twilight sky with the shape of the moon, letting the 2 know she was nearby. She waited for a reply signal. Nothing immediately happened, but she felt a shiver run up her spine. Something wasn't right. Some pony yelled out from the darkness, "Look out!" Rather than doing that, Emerald threw up a shield just in time for a large black shadow to slam against it, giving her a full view of monster's teeth. And oh boy, they were big. Her shield flattened. She poured more power into the shield as the creature pushed harder, clawing at the shield with its massive scythe-like claws. Sparks flew as the creature's claws scraped against the shield. The tips of the claw pierced the shield. There was a bright glow from the darkness and a flash as the beam of fiery magic slammed into the creature, giving Emerald her first look at what the thing, and it was nothing she's ever seen before. A monster had a body of a lion, a head of a goat, and a snake for a tail. "What the hey is that?" she yelled as Crusader came flying out from the bush with Bright Rain on his back. He landed beside her with another solar blast charged between his horns. He fired, blasting the monster again, but something was strange. The monster's fur wasn't catching fire. It was glowing red hot like metal. "No idea, just kill it!" Crusader yelled, pouring more magic into his attack. Horn glowing with magic, Emerald summoned a batch of gems from the ground and launched them at the creature, piercing its skin. The beast roared in pain. The scream was so horrible that it forced all 3 ponies to flop their ears down to muffle the noise. "Shut Up! Creating a crystal spear, Emerald chucked it at the beast. The spear pierced the beast's mouth, traveling through its lower jaw and into the ground, pinning it. Finish it off! Crusader shrugged bright light off his back and charged his horn, creating a dozen small suns the size of an acorn. Horns glowing red, the many suns encircled the beast, and on Crusader's command, the balls exploded and morphed into beams that pierced the monster's entire body, skewering it. The beast's insides exploded in fire and gave one last wail before falling over into a burning husk. They watched the beast burn, the fire glowing in their eyes as they waited. None of them said anything for a long time as they thought of the ponies they lost to the monster. It's my fault they're dead, Crusader spoke up finally, the fire reflecting off the tears threatening to fall. He blinked them back, refusing to cry. I should have called for backup sooner. Yeah, you should have, was Emerald's response. Crusader's ears dropped, but she didn't stop. I don't know what you were thinking or care at this point. You should have known the instant you walked into that village that whatever attacked it was clearly not your run-of-the-mill monster. But you didn't do that. You chose to act like a foolish greenhorn and blundered into death's embrace. Look at Bright Rain, Crusader. He's the only one left alive, and he's lost a leg. Crusader opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He looked away with shame. What was that? Emerald demanded, getting right into his muzzle. Quickly he said, I'm sorry. Emerald's frown deepened. Don't tell me you're sorry. Tell their families. Tell your mother. And tell your father. Understand that when you're in command, ponies entrust you with their lives. I understand. No! Emerald barked gruffly as rain began to fall from the sky. You don't understand. Not fully. But you will soon enough. Snorting angrily, she trotted back towards the village, calling for a pickup in her gym communicator. She stopped since she noticed Crusader wasn't following her. Come on, let's go home. Oh. Ooh. I don't know. This chapter has a lot of good points to it. I mean, first off, the EUP does sound like a good idea. If Luna has her night patrollers, then Celestia should have her army as well. But as Celestia said, there was no need, for she trusted Luna. And Luna trusts her night patrollers to get the jobs done. Though Night Patrol has a deep commitment to Luna, that whatever orders she gives, they will follow to the letter, without a moment hesitation. And the new council members see this as a sort of threat. Therefore, they want to counter with their own army. Granted, this army would be poor in a fight, since Night Patrol has been around for 2-3 years at this point. They're trained, have hunted monsters, and have been in 2 major battles at this point. The EUP would not stand a chance against Night Patrol at this moment. Now, Celestia also has a good point of not having the EUP, because it would be out of fear, not out of responsibility. Now, as for Crusader, okay, I get it. He's new commander and he wants to prove himself. But you don't rush into a situation that others are not trained for. No person, leader, a true leader, would not take fresh trainees pretty much on a suicide run. Just wouldn't do that. You know, it's supposed to be a simple recon mission. You go in, get intel, report back. Let the elite, the older, more veteran soldiers go into this combat and deal with a creature like this. But he was brash. He wanted to prove himself. Therefore, a very high consequence happened. He loses his squad, except for one who just lost a leg. And he's lucky he got a simple chew out from a higher officer at this point. Real life situation, he would probably be court-martialed for his actions, or put on base arrest. You can't leave the castle. You can't go on patrols. You gotta stay, work KP, babysit, boring stuff, maintain weapons, armory, that type of stuff for a certain amount of time. And then you have to prove yourself again if he wanted to go back into the field. Yeah, I'm a military brat. I grew up knowing Army, Marine, etiquettes mainly. Navy, Air Force, not so much. I still need to brush up on Navy and Air Force ranks myself. And I listen, I talk to veterans, ask them certain questions, and, you know, the what ifs. And this is one of the questions I asked, you know, what would happen to a commander, to a sergeant, a lieutenant who breaks orders and gets the men killed? Pretty much a court-martial. At least that's what I've been told. I don't know what it's like right now in the current military, but this is like years ago. Like, we're talking Vietnam, Korea War, World War II at the most. But no, this chapter was very well written out. I enjoyed it to the fullest. I got goosebumps going down my back during some of the scenes. And I can't wait for chapter 26 for tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter. Leave your comments below of what you thought about it. Don't forget to like. And I will see you all tomorrow night. This is Icy Night, signing off.